everyone, welcome back. Happy Saturday to you all. I want to share with you that today's conversation is really about what can happen when someone looks at where they came from, looks at everything they overcame, and then decides to go back and help multitudes of people overcome it too. My guest today is Jean Rebecca, co founder with his wife, Sylvia Rebecca of Stand for Haiti, or also known as Campe Haiti. It's a Charleston based nonprofit that is working to educate, empower, and strengthen communities within Haiti. And before there was this powerful organization doing amazing work called Stand for Haiti. There was Jean's story. And I think this story is going to challenge the way you look at your own, because sometimes the very thing that you survived, or the place you came from, or even the obstacles you thought were only meant to break you, are the very thing God is going to use to reveal to you the purpose and the call that He has for your life. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring in our special guest that we have today. Jean, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity, Aisha.
I'm excited to have you on. I want to share this really quick story before we get started, so you guys understand Gene's impact in my own personal life. So he is a leader at our church. He's one of the apostles at our church. And when I first started coming to church, I had no sense of like the appropriateness of dress. The I was still learning my identity in Christ. I was still seeking attention and all these things. And when I came to church, it was one event that we had. It was for Valentine's Day, and I came with my cousin, and we both had on these skimpy skirts. And at this time, I had already I was already going to the church. I already knew Gene, but I was still working on myself. Like my mentors, including him, were helping me to live my life out for Christ, because that's what I wanted to do. But these were the areas of my life that needed to be refined. And I remember I walked into the Valentine's Day party, and Gene told me to come. He pulled me over. He took me into a side room. He left the door open. And then he says to me, he goes, how do you see me? I said, like a father, because he had major impact in my life, and the way that he taught me about Christ and guided me and talked me about my worth and the man that I should attract. All of that like was significant for me, because the things that I had never heard before, that I should guard my anointing, guard these things in my life, and that God was going to prepare a special person for me, and I need to also become that person. And so he was like a trusted mentor of mine. And so he says to me, how do you see me? I said, like a father, of course. He said, great answer. And then he goes and he tells me, he's like, I want you to understand who you are, and the worth and the anointing that you have. And he doesn't even say anything about my dress. He just starts speaking to me about my identity, like who I am, how I should see myself, like the man I would attract. And he wanted me to attract the right person. And from all of that, I gathered, I'm like, again, he never said anything about my outfit. I said, is this about my outfit? Because when I examined everything he was saying, I'm like, "Oh, what is out of alignment? What is out of alignment? This skirt is super short. This what I have on is very provocative." And he said, "You said it." I said, "Well, I have my pants in the car. I can go change right now." And the thing is, I was a youth at the time. I think I was like I don't know, 16, 17 at the
Mhm.
time, and I had not had like a fatherly figure in my life to tell me that. And instead of me saying, "Who do you think you are?" I had so much respect for him that because of what he had previously done in my life and the things that I learned from him, that I was like, all right, I'll go change. I can make this appropriate. And I went in the car, changed it to my pants, and all of the photos were me in that pants and my top. And so that was, I think, God preparing me before
Yeah.
even launching into the beauty space ever, to understand my identity in Christ, the man I would attract. Now I'm married, happily married, have an amazing husband that appreciates and values everything about me, treats me like a daughter of Christ. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And Gene is still very pivotal. He is my husband's mentor. And so he still has insight into our marriage. He's still there when we go through our trials, still there to celebrate when we have our wins. And he has played a major role in my life. And so I just want you guys to understand the man that we have in front of us today is really about the Christian life and about everything that we're going to talk about. And so,
Sheesh. You are a stage setter for sure. You
well,
set the stage.
you are really an
Um,
amazing man, and I know you don't
I'm
like
grateful.
one thing
I'm
he doesn't
grateful.
like is the attention or the praise.
Mm.
but he's done so much within the American society with the youth, and as well as in Haiti, that it deserves to be, you know, consistently recognized. And
Awesome.
we're going to get into that right now. So I want to just get to the start at the beginning. Gene, when you
Sure.
think about Gene Rebecca, like before America, because you're from Haiti,
Hmm.
before America, before ministry, before Stand for Haiti, what was the little boy growing up in Haiti? Who was he? What do you remember about your earliest years?
Oh man. I remember my relationship with my mom, of course. And now, granted, I was in Haiti for maybe about 6 years before I came to the States. So most of my memory is, you know, outside, playing or running, ducking and hiding, eating paper and sand. I gather a lot of my stories, mainly talking to my mom, a little bit of my dad, but my mom would tell me I was a rock thrower and then go and hide under the bed. I look now at my current state, I can't see myself doing a such thing, but when I look at my boys, I get a little bit more of understanding of like, yeah, mom was right. But overall, I remember fun times, but I remember hard times as well. My mom's struggling to get by. I remember barefoot, you know, not having shoes or something like that, and going hungry. And when I was hungry, my mom would always, and that's probably why I have a love for bread still now, but my mom would try to find some type of way. She couldn't get me anything to eat. She was going to get me some bread and water, you know? So I enjoyed and still enjoys a good soft bread, you know, warm hot bread. But yeah, those are the things I kind of remember when I was young. Very little education was taking place. A lot of time spent outside and hearing buku of stories, you know. So my family and my community was great storytellers.
Now, your biography tells an incredible story about, and you just mentioned a little bit about it too, but the circumstances surrounding your birth and even having to eat things like paper and dirt as a young child because there wasn't enough food. When you tell people those stories, what do you want Americans to understand about the kind of poverty you experienced in Haiti?
So, and I think this has been echoed over and over again. As a young kid, you hear this, it's more true now. You don't know what you're in until you're out of it, right? Or you don't know the magnitude of what you're in. I get this, I get lately as I watch, I have one of my boys is 3 years old, the other one is 6. And I get to watch the benefit of living young through their eyes, right? Having both parents in the household, having electricity, and them just being in their innocent stage in the way they're taking on life. And then my mind is going back at that age and at that stage was completely different night or day. And it was watching them, I understand that my life was survival stage, you know. Their life is like setting up for the future and what, you know, what life, the best thing that life has to offer per se. I was on survival mode on a regular basis. And now I realize it more than ever, you know, just watching them and experience life through them. So that's one of the things. Um,
Yeah.
I don't, and you know, I don't know if we're gonna get there, but my mom sharing my how I was born, right? Being her having to go through I think 9 months and I'm still in her belly, 10 months still in her belly. And now because she already had prior to me, a stillborn baby, she's basically waiting to give birth to another stillborn baby, you know, and having to go through those internal traumas and whatnot. And then out of nowhere, because of the makeup and setup of how Haiti is, where you have outhouses, basically usage of bathrooms outside and not inside of the home. You know, the women have a bucket, 5 gallon size bucket by their bedside to go to the bathroom. Well, one morning, March 3rd, 1979, she has to use the restroom, and she gets up in the morning to go, and then I come out, right? And as and as now I'm out and she's going through this again survival mode to keep me alive. Voodoo is very much prevalent. So she's taking me, trying to hide me from voodoo folks, And I remember, I remember going to, her taking me to the mountains for prayer, but I didn't know that was why. I remember hiding underneath the bed, but I didn't know it was because, someone was trying to take so I remember vivid pictures and then talking to her, she fills in the gaps.
Wow. So you're saying that these the voodoo or doctors or witches, they were doing like, maybe this is child sacrifice?
Yeah, so there was a voodoo lady in the neighborhood. There's a lot of voodoo temples and whatnot. But this voodoo lady basically um was trying to take my life. I'm not sure if it was to sacrifice me or I don't want to go into too deep of gruesome of parts, but yeah, basically, yeah, to take me or take my soul, take my spirit, or turn me into a zombie, whatever they was trying to do. She was bent on her conquest to basically take my life.
Wow. And so the hiding under the bed was for the protection against that.
It was that, and there were carnivals and whatnot that these guys who would basically make themselves look they would powder their face to make themselves look like zombies and stuff like that. And they would walk around. This is stuff I just remember vividly and used to have dreams about when I was younger. Had like these caskets that they would walk around with, and they would scare the kids with the caskets. And so they would go around chasing kids to try to put them in the caskets. Whether it was playfully or whether it was actual. I would constantly, when I see those type of folks around, go into hiding. So between those two reasons, either some form of celebration of death that would take place annually, or a voodoo person such as the lady that I'm talking to you about that would go around to maybe try to take kids or so yeah, for those reasons, it brought some level of fear at that time.
Wow. So with between the voodoo lady and then these people that would put white makeup on their faces and walk around with the caskets, is there any other like groups that you would deal with also in Haiti with the same type of, I guess, motive?
And so no, not that I remember. In some ways, again, it was day to day, so it felt a little bit more. It felt natural, it felt common. It's not, and when I say day to day, it's just it was a part of the lifestyle. It was a part of the world. So as often as it it didn't happen enough for me to kind of like go and hiding all the time. I've had a lot of fun. I remember a lot of joyous occasions. But those things were a part of this a part of the story. My story is a part of my life and a part of things that I had encountered, but not enough to kind of like put too much emphasis on.
Okay. Now, you left Haiti for the United States when you were only 6 years old.
Mhm.
What did 6-year-old Jean think America was going to be? And what did you actually encounter when you got here?
So because when my dad left the country for a better life, I wasn't introduced to my dad. In fact, I don't think I was born when he was in when he was still in Haiti. He was in transition to the U.S. and then he found better life for himself. And and so it wasn't. I remember, you know. a guy going to my mom and saying, "Hey, you know, your basically his dad is in a position where his son can come to the States and stuff like that." And my mom, um, hesitant, but knew that it was the best thing to do, right? I've never was connected with my dad. I didn't know anything about my dad. So it wasn't like a hoorah moment. The person that I've always been with all my life, person that I loved and know who loved me, the person who's always taken care of me, I'm basically um, being removed from her, you know? I heard tidbits about the United States, but not enough to like really connect the dots. Um, I remember going on a plane, landing in, I believe, Miami. I get into Miami airport. They and then there's a guy standing in front of me. There's another guy next to him, and they're saying, "Hey, which one's your dad?" I don't know. And then I remember obviously there was making picking jokes and it was fun for them and whatnot, but that was like kind of my introduction to the States. um I had heard about the hoorah and excitement, but when I started kind of really experiencing as a young kid, I didn't know the language. I was struggling to you know, education for me, I was able to go to school, but it was far in between. It wasn't consistent enough. So I was still trying to learn um, Haitian grammar, you know, and learn how to read and write in Creole and all that stuff. I was at that stage. So let alone now to go and pick up, you know, trying to figure out, you know, how to speak English and how to get by with all the different food types and and the milk cartons and the ketchup wrappers and the mayos and how to put a hamburger and how all that stuff works, you know. So
Wow.
it was everything was kind of the newness, the social life and stuff like that. And then granted, um, Haitians in America was going through their own turmoil, you know. So it wasn't like, okay, you're moving and you've thrust into a better life. You're thrust into a different means of survival and a different means of, but this time
Mm.
I'm disconnected from the person who's always looked out for me, my mom, you know. And then I'm trying to build this, I guess, trying to figure out this relationship with my dad. And while I'm trying to figure out this relationship with my dad, he's zoning, you know, make going to work and doing his construction thing and trying to move up the ladder of life because America is go go go, is get it. It's like, you know.
Yeah.
And so while he's going for the mountains, I'm like trying to figure things out, you know. And so I'm left to my brother's half my brother's mother, or my half brother's mother, and that's who I'm staying with. And we're trying to figure it out, you know. Meanwhile, we're still having, you know, in the States, issues with electricity being on a regular basis, issues with water being cut off. And I'm like, this is interesting, you know. So trying to figure out the social disposition was fairly unique.
I think that's very pivotal to point out, because I think when people hear he came to America, assume that that's where the hardship kind of ends. But you're saying like, no, that's this is actually a whole new environment, it's a whole new endeavor. And yeah, this is
Yeah.
where you can have the American dream, but that dream is a process.
Yeah, it's a 100% a process. There's you're trying to figure. I remember starting school, you know, and being bullied because I was a Haitian, you know, and so that was a completely different eye opener. That you had the, I guess, the black and white, you know, thing going on, them going on back and forth, and then now there's a Haitian and African American thing going on, and you stuck in the middle, like trying to figure all of it out, you know. So it was very, very a unique situation. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, so you come here, you don't speak any English, got to get
Mhm.
to know a father who has never been in your life,
Right.
and you're also trying to navigate this new environment without the one person in your life that made you feel safe, that made you, you felt comfortable with. And then you have to go to school. There's some bullying that takes place. So looking back now, where were there people who stepped into your life at critical moments and helped change your trajectory?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the power of observation. I think sometimes we sleep on it, to be able to watch and see um, how life operates, and then trying to figure it out, and that's where education as well is so powerful, and going into a school environment where there's different um, kids from different walks of life, teachers in the classroom, that cares about education, but that cares about the people that they're giving the education to.
Mhm.
And so I've had people along the way that wasn't just focused on like um, inputting information on the inside of me and making sure, that I get the grades, but they were generally concerned about my well-being, and seeing that they were genuinely concerned about my well-being, in their care, for me, opened up a completely different world of possibility for me. And so one lady in particular I remembered, I believe her name was Miss Marson, and she was, I think, maybe my kindergarten teacher of some sort. And so I was lost trying to figure out like how to get back home, and and so more than one time, and I didn't stay no more than maybe 5-10 minutes away from the school. So she gave me a ride home, and giving me a ride home, she played some type of Michael Jackson music. Maybe it was Beat It or something, like I don't know, but she played it, and I was kind of like thrust into a world that I had no idea existed, even still while I was in America, but I lived in a Haitian home, Haitian tradition, Haitian way, and everything else, and so I saw life through that, and then being in her car and experiencing like her life a little bit, and seeing life through her eyes, I'm like, oh wow, that's beautiful, and having some friends going over their homes, playing basketball with them or shooting the ball around as I got older, and I saw the way they lived, and I'm like, this is, seeing the different dynamics of mom and, I'm sorry, father and son, and I'm thinking there's a different there's a different way of raising child, not just the way I was raised. There's a different way of loving, not just the way, my family loved. There's a different way of experiencing life, experiencing America, not just the one that so watching that and being a part of those other worlds through their eyes, through their experience, it made me hungry for something more than what hungry enough to try to pursue it, try to go after it, and believe that I could have it. And so I became less desiring, like, oh, this is it. Oh, pity me. Or things never gonna be never gonna change. God, is this what it is? Like you get in a certain space where you cannot see your way out, and
Yeah.
there's darkness everywhere, and you can't see the future, and so you live from there. But then as I begin to see light from other people, I'm like, there's a possibility, so let me try to be more active in my pursuit, and then that's where it led me. So
This is so beautiful. So
uh,
I feel that what I gathered from your story is two things. Community is extremely important. They make a huge impact because I feel that too in my life. This community for me that has, I talked about how you impacted my life as a father figure. and teaching me the things that I now know and apply even in the business of beauty in the industry there. And it's just beautiful to see that God just he will bring the right people around you to surround you. There was a time in your life where the enemy was trying to kill that, and then
Yeah,
but God protected you the whole way through. And then I see this parallel. So community, yes, extremely important. God's providence, we see that as well. But then I see this parallel. You came from Haiti, came to the United States, became an American citizen, and there's a parallel between the person, the immigrant that comes here, totally different experience of in terms of environment, etc., and then the actual person who is American, grew up in the hood, etc. They have to see that there is something outside of the environment that they're in order to hope
sure.
and to dream of something greater exists and to even desire that. Like that has to be presented in order for them to
Yeah,
be like, wait, I could have better, different, I could have a healthy family, I could
yeah,
have a good
yeah, yeah,
marriage, a good
yeah.
job.
Man, all right, so my hair is going up right now. I'm getting excited.
Go,
So that's
go.
all that means. But so yeah, and that's I'm sure maybe we'll get to it in the future, but or later on. And and that's the opportunity and the privilege I've had of working with students from all walks of back life, all walks of life. Especially from where I came from, and how I was brought up and what I experienced. And I get the opportunity to now again watch these young students, either from ninth grade on to their senior year, experiencing life and going through what they're going through. And it's one thing to be able to motivate using speech, you know, um, that's one tier. But the deepest tier is to really be able to walk alongside a child or a student or that individual youth, and to help them see where they are, and then almost moving them to an experience that they can have, or giving them enough of it where it leaves a taste and an appetite in their mouth for more. And that's my privilege in life, is getting that opportunity, to take a child to that, almost, if you will, to be that Miss Marson, like, come in my car,
Yeah.
take a drive. Let's take a drive, listen to my music, um, partake in my life for a little bit, and it leaves a desire, being able to take a child, let's say downtown Charleston, who's never been downtown Charleston before, and introduce them to business owners, etc. And or taking them to fancy restaurants that they've never been to for fine dining and etiquettes and stuff like that. It leaves something, it leaves a want, it leaves a desire. So I, in some ways, put it like this a lot, and I don't know how it's going to sound for viewers. I don't mind living in the mind of someone to give them a different thought, a different idea, a different experience than the one that they're currently having. Because that way, if I put a seed thought in their mind, if I give them a seed experience, for what they have to go home and fight with in the street corners, for what they have to combat at night, or family dynamics and stuff like that, or figure out how they're going to make it in life. They have to go through that on a regular basis. I don't live with them, but I can at least penetrate a thought and leave it there to give them something else to think about, something else to hope for, something else to go after, and then that will spark a drive on the inside of them, like it did me, like it did you. Hey, there's opportunity, let's go after it.
Wow. So I guess what I wanted to ask another question to follow up from that, but I think
So,
this will probably take us into your
sure.
your assignment. Somewhere in the middle of all of this is your relationship with Christ that becomes a part of the story. So how did you become a Christian?
Great question. So my mom, she's, and maybe that's, and again, that's one, there's a myth, so it's not a myth, but alongside with the practicing of voodoo, and Catholicism and all that part, it's a strong Christian base, and and people who love God, who are on their face before God in Haiti on a regular basis. My mom is a gun ho believer, and like I told you, when the incidents was taking place in Haiti, she would take me to a prayer mountain and made sure that I was prayed for. Earthquake took place, and when I first heard her voice when 2010, when that earthquake took place, she we didn't know what was going to happen, how life looked. Everything was upside. Her world in front of her was upside down, trying to find people. And
Mm.
and for I had the chance to talk to her for all but maybe five or so 10 seconds or stuff like that. And my mom said something that she always said to me: "We're waiting on God." And that's what we did. We waited on God. So there was a faith, a seed there, before I was awakened to it. And then moving here, we wasn't really churchgoers like that. I became or found my interest in being a Jehovah Witness through a gentleman, Vincent Gretel, who invested in my life as a young man when my father was not present. So his involvement and him taking me in as a youth made me automatically interested in his faith and in his religion and whatnot. And so that was the path that I thought I was going to take. And then lo and behold, I meet my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and she is a what I called back then a backsliding Baptist. I was a backsliding Jehovah Witness. We came together, um, and then this is like our sophomore year, I believe, of high school. My By the time we become junior, almost entering into our senior year, a friend of mine's, my best friend Fido Myrtle, who goes to a college, Florida Southern College, meets this gentleman student called Henry. Henry is from South Africa, and Henry is on fire for God and penetrates my friend Fido's heart about Jesus and everything else, because he too was a backsliding Jehovah Witness, whatever that means. And so that that changed his life. He comes home after a college break or something like that. And I remember being in the front of his family's parking lot. And on before I went home, he asked me, my friend Fido did ask me a question. Um, is Jesus Christ your personal savior, your Lord and Savior? And I was trying to understand the concept, the language, and Christianity, of course, has its own tone and fluency and dialect and whatnot. And so I was trying to understand what he was saying. And I paused long enough for him to speak truth. He said, um, if you have to pause that long, then it means no,
Wow.
like that. And so that struck me, hit me hard. So I got in my car. No, a ride that normally takes about 25 minutes or so felt like it took seconds. I don't know how I got home. I just found myself in the bathroom, looking into the mirror, facing myself, and like, God, I gave my life to what I thought was the one to pursue you. And now I'm realizing it wasn't it. And so I'm having this real soul to soul come to Jesus. So I denounce any form of religion, and I ask the true God to enter into my heart and whatnot, to lead me, direct me, etc. And that genuine conversation in the bathroom, staring at myself at the mirror, was what did it for me. And I've been walking with him, in him, beside him, for him, ever since. And everything I do is through his gaze. It's through like, I don't feel like a right. Well, this cliche, yeah, but yeah, I live for him. I live for him. Yes.
Powerful. So you eventually went into pastoral leadership and ministry. When did you begin realizing that serving people wasn't simply something you did on occasions, but is something God was calling you to build your life around?
Um, yeah, so as I mentioned, when I got saved, I I got saved, Aisha. It wasn't no game for me. It wasn't no, I didn't get saved by going to church. I didn't get saved, by again somebody talking me to me, other than what my friend, that encounter. And it wasn't like somebody led me. So I can't be it wasn't somebody talked me up to it or anything like that. I had all of my experiences. I didn't know Bible, I didn't know concepts. I just knew what this love and this encounter did for me. So much so of how made me feel, being on internal, like to myself. In some ways, I'm still am, but kind of closed in, fear of the world, fear for people, and all of that stuff. And I felt like just that it gone.
Wow.
And I remember kind of my encounter even with the Holy Spirit and stuff like that, and how I felt. And I'm like, you know what? And it was when I encountered the Holy Spirit, and that's a different, me- that's a different, I guess, setting for a different time and whatnot. But when I encountered the Holy Spirit, I just remembered I wanted everybody to have this experience. Like, if
Mm,
you had the experience that I just had, your life is going to change. If you encountered God like your life is going to change. So at that point, I made it, I made it my business to kind of do it. I didn't know, going out and grabbing stuff from my house, and putting it in a bag and taking it to the street corners and stuff like that, or walking into a Publix and to invite somebody to Christ, that it was I didn't know there was protocols for that. I didn't know there was such thing that evangelism and mission work and ministry and pastoring and none of that. It was just um cold turkey going out there. And because he was in my heart. I was awaking to the fact that he was in my heart, that I wanted people to badly experience this. So I made it my business to like connect with people as best as I can to give them what I had in me. Now unfortunately, it wasn't in the always in the best of manners and in the best of ways and all that stuff, because it was zeal without a lot of knowledge. So.
mm. And how did this lead you to a place where, because we're talking about you're serving people, you're going out right now and ministering to others, and then we get to this place. And I'm speeding up your story, I know, but we get to this place where you have this desire to start an organization, Stand for Haiti. How did you get from serving others and wanting and being so healed and overcome, just at this place where you feel this need or this desire in you to look back at where you came from and to transform where you
Yeah.
came from? What was that transition? How was
So I
that?
think two things happened. One of them is my own experiences was leading me, like the breakthroughs that I was receiving. I knew that I was normal. I was a normal child. I am a normal child that went through something very deep and difficult. And I'm watching the pattern of my life and how these moments are happening and how the breakthroughs are taking place. So I automatically begin to okay, if I have a support system and my support system did this, what if I provide a support system? Then working in a school system, I begin to see like what the support system, if I put support systems around my students, this student needs tutoring, this student needs, at times he needs a mentor, at times that same student needs help getting to the doctors and at time he needs he creating that pathway and watching them succeed in that pathway, right? Watching myself succeed in a support system and diving. So what if then I take that support system um, to a place like Haiti, what would be the outcome, at the level where I'm at, and with the means that I have and stuff like that, and working in the educational field, then I was able to kind of take teachers and take social workers and all those that stuff, some nurses, and so we begin to, like, do small groups, things with the students, interactions and whatnot, and then we begin to see what the outcome. We begin to see smiles and joys in kids' face. So that was that path, and but what really did it for me was 1999. I left Haiti in I believe, in 85. Yeah, I think 85. And I wasn't able to go back to Haiti again until 1999. That was my first interaction with my mom. By
Right.
that time, I was, I think, a senior in high school, maybe. Um, it's my first time seeing Haiti, um, since I was 6, and I was just disturbed by what I saw, that all of these years, I can look on in the street and see the homes made of, I'm sorry, in the neighborhood and in the villages, the houses look all the same, and the dirt floors look all the same, and I'm looking at a kids and feeling as if, oh, I'm still there, like my dirt, dirty feet, half naked, some fully naked, barely trying to, barely can eat, kids with powdered up mouth, look like they've been eating on dirt. So I'm watching this like interaction and like, this is me still, you know?
Mm.
And so um I I left that experience, and it sat with me and it haunted me. And then back in '04, I got the chance to go back, and going back, it was all of the same thing. And then back in '07, our church decided to take a team. And then when we took the team and we went to minister at some churches, the Pitchonville area in Haiti. My family's from the Croix-des-Bouquets, La Tremblay area. The team decided to say, hey, I know we're on track to go to this church, but let's go to your area. Went to our area, got to my village, and I saw the condition of my mom, and I knew it was bad, and of my family. I knew it was bad. But this time I was watching the condition through my support system, and I broke down. And I broke down, and then had this moment of, there has to be more, there has to be more than just making it a mission, for a moment or a season, or just going back and forth every now and then. What can I do that will sustain itself? And that's what I decided to do. There's a lot of stories that are attached to that, but for the most part, those experiences um, cause a God burden to enter in. It wasn't simply because, I don't believe it was simply because I was a Haitian. I don't believe it's simply because I had family there. There's a lot of families. There's a lot of American Haitians, or immigrant Haitians that are in the States, but don't have the desire to um, to pour in. So I knew it had to be more than that, and so yeah, I've been doing it ever since, Miss Aisha. I've been grinding. We've been grinding, our team.
It's beautiful. I do want to take a moment here, guys. If we can put up some photos of the work that's being done through Stand for Haiti. And if you guys would love to be a sponsor, they've I believe built educational centers, provided food, clothes, supplies through this organization. It's been very powerfully transforming different communities within Haiti. So he's not just sitting on what America has provided him, what he's worked very hard here to build, but he's taking that to transform his own nation, and has been doing that successfully, setting up sponsors for kids so they can get through college and get the education to even transform their environment. Partnering with different churches. So if you would like to be a sponsor or partner with them, um, you can go to standforhaiti.org. I think we have that flyer. Yes, you can go to standforhaiti.org. You can also give via Cash App or Venmo if you'd like to just simply donate. And also standforhaiti.org is where you can find out a lot more information about their
Yes.
organization. You can find out their different leaderships, the impact they're making, how they go about uh, uh, making sure that these kids get what they need in order for them to overcome their environment and to be successful. It's a very powerful organization. It has transformed many lives. So not only is he transforming the youth in America itself, but he's taken that to his own nation and transforming them there too. It's very, very powerful. Jean, would you like to add anything there?
Yeah, we are in our third year of our school now. So which is
Wow.
an addition to the services that we was providing with urgent care buckets and various what we call our life proof, which was educational growth for our students and for the community that we serve. And so 3 years ago, we basically launched a school which is called Jamez Academy, and students are just they're blossoming, but at the same time, there's overhead that needs to be covered and stuff like that. So the support goes a very long way in helping to provide jobs for our teachers and our professors and directors and stuff like that. But it helps us also push the education for our students. I remember we had a child 5 years old by the name of Jafnica. I think she's probably one of the last slides. And Jafnica was our first sponsored student. And now Jafnica is just graduated high school in our program and is getting ready to go to a local university. So
Wow.
it's the possibilities of investment, is incredible, and to know that you're helping push Haiti forward. There's a lot of narratives out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that's taking place, but there's also ground roots. There's people that haven't forsaken their country. There's people that are still hoping and praying. They're still plowing and pushing forward and wanting the best in Haiti. So while the narratives are out there, while there's things taking place, but among the amongst the rebels, among the government situations that's going on, there's still a group that's trying to take ground. And I'm invested in that group. We're invested in that group, and we believe that as they believe, and as they're attached to hope, we're trying to provide them as much resources to move forward. Our next goal is to provide a STEM technology program for them. There are those that's interested in and they're working and learning AI.
Wow.
They're learning how to the whole social media aspects of life. There we have a student that's in nursing. We have one that's going into accountants and want to do banking. So so yeah, yes, things are happening in Haiti that's sad, unfortunate, but I don't want us to forget the group that's looking to advance their future. And I know the more seed we can plant into their world, the more we can give them fuel to run for their future and fight for their future as well.
Now, how did you know that? And let's keep those, we can keep those images rolling. Let's go through them because there's a good bit of them. How did you know that this organization would be like a success? How did you know that, or what made you? Because I'm sure getting an organization started, finding sponsors, people that will be willing to assist and understand what's taking place in Haiti and the impact that you are going to do. How did you get the, I guess, the faith, the belief that what I saw when I went back and what I know it could be possible for these kids, I have to make that connection happen. What made you think that that could be possible?
We talked around it, danced around it quite a bit, or talk a bit, but it's because it was possible for me. One, I experienced it for myself too. Um, I've I've been in a world of education, church life, ministry life, where I've involved myself, and God's allowed me to be around and serve a lot of people in their disposition situations, while having a lot of contacts and connections to great people, great professional folks with some great hearts and stuff like that. So I just saw the possibility because I've lived the possibility. That's one. The other is again the this sense of burden that you have for something that won't leave you. So then whether someone believe in it or not, invest in it or not, it's still attached to your calling, your want, your why, your reasoning, your purpose, and everything. And once you see it like that, um, because you want the support, of course, you need the support, but the support is not what sustains sustains me and what God has mandated, right? So if it was maybe man encouragement that it was just that, yeah, then maybe I would have chill out, or the news and what's transpiring in Haiti would have really kind of like set me back. But in all that's been going on in Haiti, we still have been able to move forward. We've always found what would we say at our church quite a bit. You are a solutionist,
Yes.
So as a solutionist, you don't have a mindset to like think, well, what about if nobody like do X, Y, and Z, or what about this? No, I mean, because serving people, even sometimes the people you're serving rejects your service,
Yeah.
and they may not. You're looking out for them, but they may not fully understand it. So sometimes you're fighting against the very people that needs your help, or you're fighting against their system, or you're fighting against their mindset. So there has to be another layer to your act of service. There has to be a deeper to your why to move forward in what you're doing, or else, what you see with your eyes will fool you and you'll be discouraged and you'll quit. So it's my God-given burden that he's kind of placed me in, and he's given me enough avenues to be a solutionist to the level that I can be and to the level that he allows me to be. And so I just keep trucking along.
That's beautiful. I think that ties into my next question that I had for you too. So you talked a little bit about, certain people coming from Haiti are not doing that job of reaching back or that. And we see this everywhere where you could come out from an environment and you don't do anything to that person that, attached to that environment, but blessed now, they're doing greater things, might not reach back to the place where they came from. Why do you think that that is? I want to get your perspective on that. Do you think that it's all a tie to assignment calling? Do you think that it's like you mentioned, like that deep burden, like God placed something inside of you to do that? Do you think that it's ignoring of calling? Maybe it's tied to selfishness. What is your perspective on that?
Whew, that's a loaded one. This I think it has a little bit with to do with all that you mentioned, depending on the individual, but and then mostly too is it's the environments, the people you connect and attach yourself with, and back to your why, your purpose, and to what's fueling or fuels you. So I and when I see the most of the Haitians that I am connected to or I know of in the and that's come to the States and stuff like that, I think it was like me when I first came to some degree. Their survival mode, and so majority of them is trying to get by, and then you get in that cycle of like, okay, I'm working to send back, so my family can survive, and so then, or again, I'm trying to go after that dream, and the last thing you trying to break through and pave the way and create a new lane is not an easy thing. It's
Mm,
not
mhm,
it's not for the heart and faint and stuff like that. So if you don't understand the magnitude of that, you're not going to put yourself in, because
mhm,
there's not always eyes around it, it's not always like a pat on the back for what you're called to do, in that way, so I think, and we just get caught in the nuances of life, and enjoying the best things life has to offer, and making service, serving a token instead of like a life responsibility. So many times it's how one views it depends upon the amount of fortitude energy they put behind it. I don't view servitude as like a token, or just okay. I'm doing okay, so I can afford to do this. I can afford. No, it's a lifestyle, it's a lifestyle, and for us, we have Christianity, we have a Christ, a pattern to follow, and everything about his pattern is very much, that he gave his life to do what he did for us, so we follow that same pattern. So I view it just following a pattern of the Most High, of course.
mm. I love that. I want to get to this next story that I kind of want you to break through this story and share about it. And you talked about purchasing a voodoo temple, and
Mhm.
what can you share what ultimately happened with that property? Like, can you share that entire story?
Yeah, so in our work in Haiti, when we first got started, and we were working with kids in the neighborhood, and we'll bring them along and do different uh, activities to help them grow and for team building, et cetera, and stuff. But we had nowhere to do it, right? And at one point too, we're doing this work, but in my mind's like there has to be more to this. We have to do something. So now, by that time too, I walk up into one of the villages close to where my family stays, and I see a voodoo temple, and I've seen it before, but it got my attention this time. And this is a voodoo temple. When our church came for the first time, I believe '07, we had walked around the voodoo temple and stuff like that, and like praying that something would happen to it, And well, now fast forward a couple years later, nothing happened to the voodoo temple, but I felt in my spirit or in my heart too, like, okay, what are you going to do about it? What can you do? So I started seeking God in my heart about, like, what can I do concerning this voodoo temple? Because I feel that rage, that what it represents is a future for the youth, and this is going to be their pathway if there's no buffer, so how can I create a buffer? And I'm like, um ask them to buy it. So um I asked the voodoo doctor at the time, and was like, hey, I want to buy a voodoo temple. And he did. We'll get left fool on last year. In other words, you must be crazy or you lost your mind, you know? So so I'm like, yeah, I wanna purchase. And so he took me in a way that I didn't know what I was talking about. I was crazy, blah blah. He blew me off. He blew me off. And we had several encounters after that, that took a couple years.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I remember one time it was like, I'm gonna ask him again. And every time he kind of changed his tone a little bit. And so that encouraged me. That change of tone encouraged me. And so yeah, so eventually negotiated for the Voodoo Temple, and I was able to purchase it. And then we tore it down with sledgehammers, hammers, shovels, and stuff like that. We didn't have the machinery to do so, to like bulldozer it. So we was brick by brick. And the great part about it is it was the young kids, five, 4, 5, 6, and up, that was investing in their future, while the family and the community gathered around and couldn't believe that this voodoo temple that's been there for 100 plus years was going down. And I asked the voodoo doctor he why did he decide to sell it. And he said, my kids participate in your program, and I've seen the difference. And he said there's still hope for them. And so because of it, he allowed me to do so. I later found out too, it was the same voodoo temple that this voodoo doctor was trying to take the voodoo lady was trying to take my life. In fact, it was her the guy was interacting with was her son. So so
Wow.
then so then her grandkids helped, in place of the voodoo temple, helped me put a playground, and was participating in the whole playground building process in the place of the voodoo temple. And also the first child that came down the slide was this, I believe, 5-year-old, ashy knees, ashy legs, shorts with some gray bluish pants and polo shirt, grilling from pearly whites from grilling from I don't know what, just some cheese and laughing excitement. Coming down, it was the voodoo doctor's son, the voodoo lady's grandson that's tried to take my life. So all of this, I came to the realization of after the fact, and I'm like, wow, look at God. And then on top of that, the buckets we ship over thousands of urgent care 5-gallon buckets to Haiti, providing urgent care to communities and stuff like that. And later I found, and then it came to mind like, oh, I was born in a bucket, fast forward, now we're providing
Wow.
life in a bucket through urgent care. And so it was like I was doing the work, but didn't realize until like just sitting down and like thinking what else could be done to grow what we're doing, and that this happens. And so there's much more to be done. There's renovation of the building property that we're renting. There's a soccer field that I would love to to we have the field, but like to get up and running. For the future, we hope to have a soccer team. There's a basketball court that needs renovation, so we hope to have um, a a basketball team. We have an auditorium that was an auditorium and a cafeteria that's kind of was the earthquake from 2010 did something that it was never repaired. I would like to repair that. So it's our space right now is an oasis that our students, family, workers come to go outside of this chaos that's happening. And so we've been able to give somebody something else to think about, to pursue while the chaos is going on. And so yeah, the more support the better. But it's God's doing His work.
That's incredible. What an incredible story. I feel like you're a prime example of the enemy under my feet, or laugh at the enemy, because
That's the truth. You don't know what's in you until you kind of I remember when I was young, just fearful of voodoo stories, you know. And my first time going back to Haiti and all the stories, I was afraid, like, you know, I might get attacked, this, and that. And I just, in my heart, I'm like, fight the darkness. I'm like, fight the darkness, fight the darkness. So it was dark. They told me there was a voodoo doctor who was like the roughest, toughest voodoo doctor. And you better look out because he'll come after you, blah, blah. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go outside at night and, um, and I'm gonna expose like myself. And when I say expose myself, like, um, in other words, I'm gonna present myself as myself, no fear, no nothing. Um, Taking a bath outside, I mean, fully clothed, of course, I mean, is a thing because there's no showers inside the villages and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? Um, Taking a bath at night is like a something people don't do again because, sir, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to give any darkness no stronghold, you know? And so from that time of like mentally combating the possibilities of what could have happened because I went out in the dark, you know, and I made myself kind of like, you know, fight that mental gave me the fortitude and the hey, this guy has a heart too, has a mind too, you know, flesh and bones. Let me go and talk to this voodoo doctor to see what we can negotiate. So yeah, when you're in the mix of your calling, I think you do what needs to be done, you know, and yeah. So
Wow. Wow. Uh, it's just so powerful. I'm just
uh,
thinking when you say do what you need to be done, even at the cost of maybe even your own life, right? You're laying
yeah,
basically everything on the line to do this work.
yeah, yes, ma'am.
It's powerful. It's impactful. It kind of even reminds me, like I thought about Charlie Kirk too. You know, laying his life down, do the work that he felt called to do. And
Yeah,
I thought about myself too, like being a part of politics and how things have taken a turn and in our
and
culture.
and I know your that again. I know your history. I know family's background. I was like, man, you what a stance. And then in the mix of, you know, the family, the root, the where you come from, you know, the 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 feedback and the vote, the hate, you know, all this, the possibilities of what can happen. But you know, the the burden of the calling is so much more stronger and louder than the voices of, you know, maybe the hatred, what people may not fully understand, you know. And so yeah, you just go for it. And again, me and you are in a space where we encounter so many like-minded people that has this tenacity to kind of like, I'm going to be in the front lines of this thing
Yeah.
because there's a future in the balance. And if there's a future in the balance, whether it's faith or whether it's politics or whatever, a future is in the balance. So we can't be on the sidelines, especially as believers with the responsibilities that we have. That's
Mm.
you know, yeah. So
Yeah, it's very powerful. I love that. Our community is very strong, and uh, a lot of us are doing a lot of amazing things for
for
Christ. It's
sure,
beautiful to see how our pastors have, what have they've taught us and how they've, you know, uh, given us ample opportunity to grow and encouraged us to do things outside of the four walls of the church. It's
100%.
powerful. Now, before we wrap up, I want you to take me 5 years into the future. If the resources and partnerships are there, what does Stand for Haiti look like?
Um, Self-sustained. Um, Basically, we're currently working on like growing vegetations to resell in the markets. We're looking to again we just have a soccer team. Hopefully in the future we'll form a basketball team as well. We're starting to go out into some of the communities that have teams and playing the teams and stuff. We're start a STEM program. So hopefully with the STEM program that we'll be able to have students kind of really um, in the higher end positions, making some moves. Training, it's going to be a training ground. So overall, self-sufficient or self-sufficient. The other one is kind of really in competition for the governmental space, the farming space, the agriculture, farming agriculture, and the media space, etc. So having hands-on experience, and of course, being first responders with urgent care to their own people and stuff like that. This is why one of the things that we've had a couple of students go into nursing after they've graduate our school and our programs and stuff. So that's the hope 5 years from now that we'll have those programs fully up and running, and then providing um, providing for self, you know, maybe with even less support from others.
That's awesome. So you're already putting in systems in play that can help support the mission and help support the locals in Haiti.
Yes, since day one. So I don't we have a nonprofit here, or in other words, we have a board here, and your handsome and outstanding husband is a part of that board and has been a great asset to us. But our missionary doesn't make what we do. They're a support system to what we do, of course. Especially since things have been shut down in Haiti for quite a bit. All of our main support has come from the locals. And when I say support, they've made necessary sacrifices in order to keep things running. So they may not have all the means that they need, but they have just enough. So hopefully, as they continue to sustain, we have a team in Haiti, a leadership in Haiti that's kind of helping running things that I'm in conversation with on a daily basis, but they're the boots on the ground. They're directors, and we establish a leadership team to be respected by the locals. So it's locals serving locals, and they're not seeing some outside rescuer, and those it took time. It continued to take time for those transitions to happen, but that establishment from our program was from day one. So yeah, we our goal is to kind of continue on that path, but absolutely they need support, they need aid at this time to kind of continue that. But what we're doing is trying to create the base and create the foundation. Once the base and foundation is created, then they'll be able to run full go.
That's awesome. Can you share? I want us to put up that slide of on how they become sponsors or even uh, to be to donate. Can we put that up? And then Jean, if you can just share how people can go about becoming a part of this.
Yeah, so if you want to partner with us, of course, as Aisha mentioned earlier, you can go to stanfordhaiti.org. You can request to be a part of our a newsletter. There's different forms of ways to give as well. The Venmo at Stanford Haiti, Cash App with the $ Stanford Haiti as well. We're on Instagram. Um, Title Instagram is Compa Haiti. Facebook is Stanford Haiti. So there's various forms of ways that you can continue to support. If you want to support the school, just send us a message and letting us know, informing us of that. You can also reach us through the website to contact us direct if you wanted to reach to kind of meet and greet or have a conversation or just introduce yourself and inform me of what you're interested in doing, or you can simply just send the funds with where you would like the funds to be allocated to. Right now, one of our main focuses that I mentioned is um, the school continuing to support our students and our educators. We normally ship once a year, but this year we suspended shipment so then we can basically utilize more of the funds for our workers and students. And then so if and it's more advantageous right now currently to purchase the supplies at the in Haiti or in the Dominican Republic. So if you want to support that way, you can as well. We you can sponsor the school, you can sponsor our urgent care, and you can even sponsor our elderly program that we have where we support the elderly in the community. So
Awesome. Well, Jean, thank you for sharing your story. And more importantly, thank you for being willing to turn your story into an opportunity for somebody else.
sure.
Very impactful. For everyone watching, if you'd like to learn more, again, you can go to standforhaiti.org, sponsor their work, or become a monthly partner. Again, that's standforhaiti.org. I thank you all so much for your time, for being with us today in this episode. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.